You done now?
Bob Saget joins me. You might know Bob Saget from his work on Full House or America's Funniest Home Videos, probably what he's best known for, or for some of his dirty and raunchy comedy that Bob Saget is known to have. He's hosting an event today called Cool Comedy Hot Cuisine, and he's going to talk to you about that. It's benefiting a really awesome cause that's near and dear to him. And I got to talk to him for a short amount of time, about 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes. We spoke about his cause and about, of course, some stuff from I asked him about the Comedy Store because I got to perform there earlier this year. We talked a little bit about his podcast, which I become a fan of. I become a fan of everybody. Everyone's got a podcast, but I think that's actually a good thing. I think that we're in a good space with that. You know what I mean? We're in a good space. So when I think, though, of Bob Saget, I don't know how many of you remember Jamie Kennedy, who's been on the podcast before, actually. He did a rap album a few years ago, back in 2005, and he had a song about Bob Saget, and it was called Rolling with Saget. Wait, hold on. Is this it?
You are now about to witness the strength of Bob Saget. Bob Saget.
Yeah. So my man Bob Saget, there's a song that they did about rolling with Bob Saget, right?
Have you ever had one of those nights that started off so damn good? No fights, no fuss. It's understood that when you go to the bar,
man, we ain't leaving till there's girls in the car.
Well, this night started off just like that, except Jamie's in the driver's seat, Saget's in the back.
We rolling on 20s to the club, pull up front, Saget's in the back seat, rolling up.
So anyway, I just remember that, and every time I think of Bob Saget, this song gets stuck in my head for days. Because I used to listen to this. They had a show called Blowing Up back on MTV, and I just remember watching it because Mattress Mac from Houston was on it for an episode of Paul Wall. So I watched it, and now this song is always in my head when I think about Bob Saget. So we're going to talk to Bob Saget, and then right after that, I talked to Rob Reiner. But let's listen to Bob Saget right now on the Brad Gilmore Show on demand. And he joins me now to talk cool comedy, hot cuisine, the one and only, I say the legendary Bob Saget. Bob, how you doing?
Oh, thank you, Brad. I'm honored. Legendary is like, oh no, am I going to die?
Well, so we can say living legend, right?
Yeah, that's even better. I was out with Bill Burr the other night and Jeff Ross and my friend Mike Binder, who directed the Showtime documentary on the Comedy Store, which is on Sundays right now. And I was saying to Bill, you know, I haven't even done what I've come here to do. He said, well, you better hurry up. So he's quite great. And he's part of an event that I'm doing. And so is Jeff Ross, a live event that I'm doing on Sunday. And your Central Time, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was scheduled to be in Houston, too. I would have been there already, and we had to cancel because of restrictions. And so I couldn't do it, but I can't wait. I've already rescheduled for next year to come back and at the Improv there, and that's the plan. And I can't wait till we can live again, and we will. But in the meantime, I've always done these events for scleroderma, which is a disease of hardening of the skin. And I lost my sister to scleroderma in 1994. But I was hosting events before she even was diagnosed. And Robin Williams, over 30 years ago, was the first person to ever perform at the event and did 6 more after that over the 20-year period. And we are a comedy event because it's such a horrific disease. And it affects people's how they look, of course, because the skin gets very taut. And you can get Raynaud's arthritis, or it can go and affect your lungs, not unlike COVID. You can die of pulmonary hypertension. So there are hundreds of thousands of people with this disease, and we finally are doing a global one. We are doing one. We always do them, you know, the events are, for example, in L.A., we did one a year and a half ago, and the comedians and performers were John Mayer was on stage with Dave Chappelle and Ken Jeong and John Stamos, and in New York I had Michael Che and Andy Cohen and John Oliver. And so this is a live on YouTube event with Susan Feniger, who was our top chef, always has cooked for the events because she was friends with our founder 35 years ago. They went to college, Sharon Monsky. And so we're going to be live in studio. And so that will be 6 o'clock live on YouTube, and 6 o'clock, 5:30 is the pre-show. And people can see all these amazing comedians and musicians, and I'll tell who as I wrap through my my riff on what I want people to know about. They can go to srfcure.org, Scleroderma Research Foundation. It's srfcure.org. And right now, if they type in the promo code Bob, there's a $50 ticket, which is it's pretty unusual that we do that, but we've never had a live virtual event, and we'll be COVID tested, and we'll be live in studio, Susan and I. And the performances of people appearing are Jason Alexander, whose stepsister passed away from scleroderma, and Jack Black, who's come to our events, and Reggie Brown and Bill Burr, who will tear me apart. That's what he likes to do. And he'll probably say, please cure this disease because I can't talk to you anymore. And Kelly Clarkson is singing a song for us that's amazing. And Jim Gaffigan, Jeff Garland, Nikki Glazer, who's hilarious, Regina Hall, who's a wonderful actress, and her mother has scleroderma, and we sent her to the center that we fund at Johns Hopkins, and her mother is well now. So that's the difference between when my sister passed away and where the new technologies and different medications that are available and just therapies. Ken Jeong, who thinks he's a doctor, will be there, and Queen Latifah, who made a video for us. Her mom sadly passed away 2 years ago from it. And George Lopez, Howie Mandel, John Mayer's going to sing, and we have an auction item of a signed guitar. And Joel McHale and he's going to, of course, rip me apart, but also we have an auction item of drinking tequila shots with some lucky winner. We're just going to get hammered. I just said, Joel, you want to drink tequila shots for a Zoom person that will bid high money? And he goes, we drink tequila? I went, yeah. He says, I'm in.
Easy sell on
Everybody's
that
drinking
one.
right now.
Yeah.
And Pat Monahan from Train, I'm almost done, Ray Romano, Jeff Ross, Sarah Silverman, and John Stamos, whose auction item is amazing when he reads stories to little kids. But I think it's story time with John Stamos, with Uncle Jesse, and I think it's going to end up being just adults calling up men or women. Oh, my God, read to me 60 Shades of Grey. I made it 30 Shades of Grey, so it wasn't as dirty. But it's a wonderful event, and it's this Sunday, the 18th, at 6 o'clock live in Houston. And it starts 5:30 with the pre-show, and srfcure.org, promo code Bob for the cheaper availability to see. It's really going to feel like a network show. I mean, we have Joe Gallen executive producing it with me, and he's a real pro. He produced my Roast years ago, all the Rock and Roll Hall of Fames. He's quite an amazing guy.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, Bob, is about this disease. I had never heard of it up until maybe 2 or 3 months ago when I listened to you on Joe Rogan's podcast. That was the first time I'd ever even heard of this issue, and I think that you're really championing. Yeah, I mean, and you're really championing the cause for it, and I think that that's great because my grandmother passed away from Parkinson's disease, and we have Michael J. Fox out there always fighting the good fight. So you're kind of the analogous situation for this one.
Yeah, and he's done amazing work, and what a hero he is, just a hero. And I've been doing benefits. I did a benefit of Parkinson's virtually, and ALS, and cancer, and, it's been amazing what we all try to do during this time, because you've got to raise money. We all, of course, are trying to raise money for COVID and for all of the things that come from the tragedy of it. And if a scleroderma or a Parkinson's patient got, had COVID, that would, especially with scleroderma and a lot of others, but scleroderma affects your lungs, and that's what you can pass away from. So there is a relation, and we want to cure these people. It's so important to be able to do that.
Yeah, it's called Cool Comedy Hot Cuisine. Make sure you go, and it's all over Bob's Twitter page and all over Instagram, stuff like that, so make sure you go check it out. But, Bob, you also recently started a podcast, so you're kind of getting into my world a little bit.
I swear I'm not doing it competitively.
No, but how have you liked it? Because what I have found with a podcast or a radio show, it's the perfect excuse to talk to somebody you've always wanted to talk to. I've always wanted to talk to Bob Saget. Here's a quick personal.
That's sweet.
Here's
Thank
a quick
you.
personal story. Is when we were in school. back in high school, the teachers would reprimand us if we used profanity, so we had to make up our own profane language. And Bob Saget was one of the words that we would say all the time.
We speak in code.
Yeah.
But it depends on who my guest is on the podcast. My 60th episode just came out, and I'm a newbie, but I love it. I've had wonderful guests. I've had, everybody from Norman Lear to Jake Tapper to Bill Maher to Dave Rubin to Regina Hall to, it's been pretty great. Whoopi Goldberg and Stamos, of course, John Mayer, of course, friends of them. They're all the same people for the benefit, but these are my friends. And then I get to call people. So I call people that leave a message for me, and that's the show that's out right now where I call people, see how they're doing through this time. And it's called Bob Saget's Here For You, and it's really been wonderful. It's doing quite well, and I love that people are loving it. I did it before quarantine started. I started doing it because I wanted to do it. And I said, I'll do this forever. If I'm directing a movie, if I'm doing a TV show, it's just a natural thing. And, of course, once quarantine started, I had the podcast radio board brought to my home, and that's how I do it. I just keep doing them all the time. And I love it. It's also good for me and good for other people because we get to have that connection, just like you get by talking to people with your show.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's great, and Zoom and the phones and social media has been great to keep up with people during this time. And I know I'm gonna keep this short, but I got one more question for you because you brought up the Comedy Store. The last thing that I did before quarantine shut down is I actually got to step on the stage of the world famous Comedy Store for an event that we did out there in L.A. And then by the time I got back home, the world had shut down and nothing was the same again. But why is that Comedy Store? When I was there, I was walking. It was the first time I was ever there, walking through the hallways, looking at the pictures, reading the names on the outside of the building. Why is that venue such a legendary spot for all comedians?
Well, I think if you watch the Comedy Store special, which I'm in on Sunday on Showtime, after you see Cool Comedy Hot Cuisine on YouTube at srfcure.org, I'm selling cars after this. But that documentary shows what it was. And Richard Pryor was in all the time. He really made it. It was Richard Pryor's club. And he didn't own it. Mitzi Shore owned it. But that's where I went on stage when I was 21, and I was asked to be a regular. And here I am on a lineup. Letterman's one of my first hosts. And the lineup's Michael Keaton, Billy Crystal, Jay Leno, and then Richard Pryor goes on. So I went, I think I'm going to stay here. And I was there for 8 years trying to get good. And I learned quite a bit. It was a pretty special place. I'm glad you got to experience it.
Yeah. I felt the history in the room. Sometimes you step inside of a room and you can feel that history. And you definitely feel it in the Comedy Store.
They never painted it. They never vacuumed.
Yeah, it doesn't look like they've cleaned it.
I hate to tell you this, but I have to go.
I know.
I feel terrible. I have to leave because I'm on a satellite tour.
Yeah, we're wrapping up now. Let the people know one more time. What's the link?
The link is srfcure.org. Thank you so much. And they can type in the promo code BOB, B-O-B, and they'll get a $50 ticket. And it goes all the way up to, $20,000, whatever. But, whatever people can give. And they can watch the show. They'll get an email right back, and they'll be able to watch it this Sunday. And so I'm pretty excited about it. And it's the 18th, and it'll be on at 6 o'clock your time in Houston. And then it'll be on at 5:30 with the pre-show. So lots of great stars, and it's a totally entertaining show with not a bunch of Zoom people that you can't keep. You lose the signal. So thanks so much for letting me plug it so much. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you so much, Bob. We'll talk soon. That is Bob Saget, everybody.
I look forward to it. Boy, do I look forward to it.